There is a wonderful story that is told to me by my students, and they've read it in a book, where a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I can't exactly recall whom, but I think it is a psychiatrist, went to the criminally insane institution there. He refused to see any of the inmates. It was a horrible place to live, and especially to work. And so the staff walked with their backs against the walls to prevent themselves from getting injured. The absentee rate was very high for the staff. They had to design a staff base that was double the size just so they could have efficient assistance from their staff, because so many of them stayed home often. They were genuinely ill from their work environment. So when he came there, they were very surprised to hear that he didn't really want to look at any of the inmates. He didn't want to see them. He wanted to see their files only. As he studied the files and looked inside those files, he could see the problematic area of the inmate, and he found it always within himself. And he would say to those pieces within, I love you and I forgive you. He would learn the mirrors that I mentioned earlier. What is it mirroring about myself? Those mirrors would then provide a way of fixing himself. And with great gratitude, he would thank the inmate and send him love for the great mirroring that he has done, that he might himself improve. He did this in the silence of his office. And as he did it, the inmate would change and would reveal the next layer of his pathology, if you will. And so he would yet again receive a new report in the file, and he would now work on the next layer of the inmate. Soon, the place became a very pleasant place to work. The absenteeism of the staff diminished. They had to let half the staff go. And eventually, the entire institution closed down. My brothers and sisters, I used to do healing hands-on. Then I moved to the next level, in which I became a unified field with the one that I wished to assist to reveal his or her perfection. This is the method of Bel Vas Pata, a wonderful and valid method. But adding to that method, if you see the portion of the person that he or she has come to you for help and heal it within, you most assuredly will assist with their healing. Do they have cancer? Cancer is a lack of presence in a certain area of the body. If the cancer is there, a piece of you has been abandoned. Which pieces of your life have you abandoned? If there is an area that blood does not flow to, blood is representative of love in the language of pain. And we have given you very careful study of this in both the book The Life of Miracles and the book Secrets of the Hidden Realms, in which we describe what the different parts of the body mean. And so, if love does not flow to that area of your body, it is because what that area represents, for instance, the feet, represents the moving forward. If that area is not being filled with blood, it is an area of your life that you do not love. If you do not love the way that you are moving forward through your life, you need to abandon it immediately. You need to change it, because a path with heart is the only life worth living. And so, as you change that which is without, you start to understand that you cannot possibly fear, And so your second chakra starts to be healed and cleared and purified. If you look at your life force chakra, which is the third chakra, you will notice that a lot of people put up a little layer of fat in that area. It's a method of protecting themselves from others draining their life force area. Now, I know the life force center has moved to the heart, but it's represented by this third chakra. If we allow others to drain us, if we are overly nice, if we are overly polite, if we play by all the rules, even when our heart says differently, if we live up to the expectations of others, if we do not love ourselves, and because we do not feel lovable, therefore, we settle for feeling needed in our relationships, if we settle for pacifying instead of confronting, where our feelings need to be expressed, all of these things drain life force. If we resist and oppose life, we strengthen what we oppose. Why? Because our life force goes to what it is we are opposing. It's another way of leaking life force. When any of these things occur, we are cut like the flower, and all of the lower three chakras, with the heart being the center one, and then of course there's the upper three chakras. The lower three chakras leak out its energy to the earth, just like the flower that is cut. And our hearts. There are certainly times that we will feel pain. But pain comes yet again as resistance to life. Allow whatever it is you feel, whether it is loss, to simply flow through you as though you are a conduit, turning it into a feeling of loss, which is a valid feeling, but only if you are in ego identification. Because truly, when you function from your highest identity, you know every minute of your life that there can be no loss. All things are a ledger balance. What is taken away on the one hand is restored on the other. The law of compensation. All of life is equity and dynamic balance. Nothing can be removed. Thus, if you have suffered what you perceive to be a loss, and your heart is grieving, let it flow until it no longer has a charge. Just allow it to flow through you like a conduit. No analysis is necessary. And then one day you will finally see that now you can do something you could never do before, because when something is taken, something must be compensated, even if at the time you cannot see it. This will assist, and also in going through the stages of your life and recapitulating them, going through the things that were painful, looking at what was the lesson, what was the contract, all those things that we previously mentioned, gaining the insights of those experiences. This is the way to heal the heart. This too will prevent you from losing energy and losing consciousness, from opposing life. In our throat chakra, so much of what we wish to say, we do not, because we do not trust our ability to say it kindly. Petty tyrants are often in the lives of those who would become masters, and they will oppose anything that is not their own will. Yet, we might stay in silence. If it is that we just wish to instruct them, but they cannot hear us, by all means, stay in that silence. But if they are crossing our boundaries, we do need to speak up. We have not the slightest necessity to stay in the unpleasantness of rage or self-pity. Indulging those things in another is to keep them on the treadmill, to prevent them from growing. So often, We think that it is kindness not to speak our truth. At times, it is not necessary. But when it is necessary, ask, is it true and is it kind? If we say things from the love of our hearts, gently and in peace, there is no need for offense to be taken. Trust our abilities to speak, that the throat chakra might release its debris and we may not create a resistance to life. If we look at the third eye, do we think that because other light workers are saying, I see an angel standing next to you, that they really see it with their physical eyes? Few see it with their physical eyes. Very, very few. Most simply know the angel is standing by your side, assuming they're accurate. Some see it clairsentiently in their mind's eye, but seldom with their physical eyes. Yet we might agonize over not seeing the way others see. Each of us is a unique perspective of the infinite. Each one of us has in fact come to bring knowledge about beingness that no one else can. For that reason, some of us see this way, some of us see that way. Some of my students might experience things that currently I am not experiencing quite as profoundly. But that's because my job right now is something else. My job is to see deeply, then I will not see as widely. Value the way that you see. There are multiple ways to see. In, I believe it was May of 2007, a race of beings called the Nitska Belavek was discovered. They had been hiding in a pocket of space during the ages of descension. And they came to speak to the masters in my class. And they said, we come to bring you sight. And we asked, is it, to see interdimensionally? Is it to see behind the appearances? And they kept going, no. There are many, many ways of seeing. There is the wisdom to put together the parts of the puzzle and deduce the picture before it's complete. There are the ways to see symbolically, as we've mentioned. There's the way of wisdom to know when to act, when not to act, when to speak, when not to speak. There are the ways of the ego to see the big picture and to know that every step you're taking is part of this big picture. It gives meaning to the journey. There are multiple ways of seeing. Would you like to forfeit any of those just so you can see an angel or a fairy in your environment? As you start to conserve energy, my beloved brothers and sisters, those gifts will automatically happen. And I need to tell you that they won't happen to the profound state that you think they may, just because you have become an ascended master. And the reason is that you still have a contract with the infinite to access information in a very specific way. And that contract requires a specific type of vision. But if you do no longer engage in the dialogue of the mind, the accessible energy now available to you that isn't sucked up by those constant thoughts will enable you to have clairsentience, clairvoyance, clairaudience to a much, much larger extent. It is imperative that regeneration inside the body happens faster than degeneration or destructuring. Cells destructure. Cells also are reborn. If the one outweighs the other, it determines whether we are going to become immortal masters or whether we are not. Scientists have studied a caterpillar metamorphosing into a butterfly. And the caterpillar metamorphosing into the butterfly goes through a stage when it's in its cocoon, where there is what they call a wave of determination, a little electrical impulse that happens in the middle of the caterpillar's brain, and this sets in motion the release of an excretion, an endocrine excretion, if you will, that starts to metamorphose the caterpillar into this exquisite butterfly that can take flight and be in a whole other dimension, if you will, namely the sky, to where the caterpillar used to crawl. So it is with man. Scientists have found that there is a cell inside the pineal gland that they call the life cell. And they have discovered that this cell is particularly active in those who are people that live for a very, very long time and live very healthy, active lives into their hundreds. Some of the yogis up in the mountains of Nepal or India and so forth. So they have found that there's a heightened activity in that cell and that there is a different hormone that is being excreted. There is yet a different hormone excreted when we go into immortality. But you see, it takes the wave of determination, my brothers and sisters. You have to define yourself by what you are becoming. Do not allow the words of others to program this out of you. Do not give credence to them. It does not matter if somebody diagnoses you with a terminal disease. In my life, I have at times, before I went into immortality, been diagnosed with very severe diseases. In each case, I have absolutely refused to acknowledge it as a reality, and there is not a trace of it. And so I wish for you to take a look at what it will take in your own life to, after this class is over, sit down and make a list of areas that program you into a specific age, for example. If it is programming you into the age that, oh, I shouldn't dye my hair because it's supposed to have its natural color. I'm 50 years old, or I'm 60 years old, or I'm 70 years old. I'm not supposed to wear these kinds of clothes or do these kinds of activities. My bones may be brittle. All of these statements are bogus statements. We create our life. There is no such disease as aging. Our cells in our bodies renew themselves every 6 or 7 years. I forget what it is, but that means we're only 6 or 7 years old. It takes a wave of determination. When somebody gives you negative information like you should be getting life insurance, you're not getting any younger. Why are you not getting any younger? It takes the attitudes of ascension. It takes living the impersonal life as a being as vast as the cosmos, but it also takes the determination to reject and repudiate such statements. Say in your mind, silently to yourself, cancel, cancel, cancel. Ignore the conversation that as though it hasn't happened, or remove yourself from the person's proximity if such programming is being given to you. You can absolutely use mantras, but mantras, or affirmations as they are called, only work if you use them for approximately 60 days, every day. You cannot skip a day. In fact, I recommend using them twice a day. Write them out. Put them where you go to the toilet. Put them where you have your bath. Put them where you brush your teeth. Put them in your wallet, so when you open your wallet, they are in bold letters. Affirmations of I am eternally young. I am an immortal being. Now, there are some rules about aphorisms that we should look at. The word no or never, any negatives, do not register. So if you say, I do not get old, you are in fact saying, I get old. So negatives should be avoided at all cost. Only positive, present tense affirmations repeated for 30 to 60 days every day, will yield tremendous results. You have had programming pour into you. It is time for you to negate that programming, to have a wave of determination. Many people say, but I don't want to live forever. Why would I want to do that? Well, we have already discussed why it is the greatest service that you can render. But my brothers and sisters, life lived from a state, it's beyond explanation, from a state of such grace, from a state in which the cosmos is your playground, from a state where you can go and come by the power of thought. You do not understand how different such a life is when you are living a life of desperation and survival. Man was never meant to live that way. A Mormon prophet once said, I think it was Brigham Young, one of the Mormon prophets, said that man is that he might have joy. Man is that he might have joy and that he might have life more abundantly. It is exactly true. And truth is truth wherever it is found, in all the scriptures and all the spiritual leaders of the world. Someplace there is truth. It is indeed not life, the half-life that people live and then it is claimed by death, but to live a life triumphantly, abundantly, eternally young. That is a life worth living, in which the slightest sign in your body can be read, you can change your life accordingly, and it is immediately gone. You do not live to be ill. You do not live to have pain, but you live each morning with such gratitude to wake up that day. One of the masters, Mantu, said in my class to me, the very last class that I had, he said, Almine, I feel such incredible gratitude and joy when I wake up in the morning. It is beyond expression how grateful I am for another day. Mantu went into God consciousness and then ascended mastery in my class here in my home. My brothers and sisters, life like that, yes, that is worth eternal life. The great gifts that we give humanity as we show the way, as we show that there is a life outside the box of their belief systems, living as a master, no longer seeking truth and here or there, but bringing truth spontaneously to each moment. No longer anticipating going to the future, but allowing the future to come to us. No longer fearing the worst. For even if the worst we have feared is coming about, there is always the loving arms of the infinite Creator, God and Goddess, that lifts us up and over those incidents. We are never alone. We are sustained and supported throughout our life. I have told the story, and it is in A Life of Miracles, where I went for a walk on the beach, and I am able to read the language of this birds. I've studied it for some years as to the weather patterns, and also I can communicate with animals. And I heard the seagulls say, "You shouldn't go for a walk. It's going to rain. We're hunkering down, getting ready. There's a storm coming." But there wasn't a cloud in the sky. So I walked up the beach anyway with my tennis shoes and my blue jeans and got caught in a most horrific rainstorm. Seagulls know best when it comes to the beach and weather. And as I was battling against the elements, drenched, icy cold, trying to make it back through the few miles across the beach to my car, I heard loudly and clearly in my mind, "Why do you fight against life? When all around you energy is waiting to be released to you, all you have to do is acknowledge the oneness." I started to move the way somebody doing Tai Chi moves. Somebody that does karate does not go full face on with their opponent, but sidesteps their force. In a beautiful dance, I went down the beach, cooperating with the wind, the way a sailboat does that has tacked and has turned its sails slightly, and now instead of opposing the wind, flies before it. In the same way, as we cease to oppose life, as we dance with its vicissitudes, we grow in grandeur and in majesty and in glory. And life becomes a life of grace. And we can say, as Mantu did, I awaken each morning with such gratitude that I might live this holy day. Believe me, my brothers and sisters, wherever you are on earth will be the most holy place when you have entered your ascended mastery. Thank you so much for spending these wonderful 4 hours with me. I feel your presence. My love to you always. Say